Are we on?
So earlier this morning, we heard from six hyper-competitive media agency chiefs, and I'm excited because right now we're about to hear from 4 hyper-competitive TV sales chiefs. And we're just, I think, 60 days out from the upfront. So I'm hoping this panel will be at least as lively as the one we heard earlier this morning, which lived up to its billing. Allow me to introduce the folks on stage briefly here. Just to my right, your left, is Jeff Lucas, the head of sales for Music and Entertainment Group at Viacom. Next up, David Levy, the president of sales at Turner Broadcasting. Then we have Joanne Ross, the president of network sales at CBS, and Linda Yaccarino, president of ad sales at NBCUniversal. Sounds like you want to clap for them. Let's do that. All right.
For you.
And I think this is a little bit of a reunion of sorts. I think we decided this is the first time Linda and David, you two are on stage together since Linda left Turner to head to NBC. So
Linda was at Turner?
New Orleans.
I didn't know that.
All right, we have lots of big questions about the state of the TV marketplace today and the future of what is still the largest ad channel by far. We also have some fun questions, but let's get started with the current state of the industry. So first quarter, it's been an interesting first quarter. Cable's The Walking Dead delivers broadcast style numbers. The finale of Downton Abbey, 8 million viewers. House of Cards premieres on Netflix to rave reviews, and Univision finishes 4th in the February sweeps. How does all of this impact the upfront? Joanne, let's start with you.
I think that it really doesn't impact the upfront. I think that, and I think probably all of you out there will agree, that when you go home at night, you go home to watch a program, not a distribution system. You don't say, I'm going home to watch cable. And the programs are what bring you back time after time. If we want to get into the reach of broadcast versus cable, we can do that. I don't want to bore you with numbers. You all know the numbers. But basically, it's not just one program that makes a network successful or a cable channel successful. It's the strength of programming. And at CBS, I think you'll all agree that we have across-the-board strength. Lisa Donahue told me to say something that she didn't know, so far I don't think I've shocked you with any of my statements, Lisa. But it's the depth of the schedule and the delivery of the schedule. And basically, when you're looking for an ad campaign, you're looking for reach, and a 0.2 or a 0.5 may not give you the reach that you need.
So, you
David,
want us to
please.
jump in, or you want to go
Yes.
one by one?
No, jump in.
Let's
So
jump in.
the interesting part is television is the largest reach vehicle out there. I'll emulate what Joanne was saying. My question is this: when you say is it going to affect the upfront or not affect the upfront? First of all, we don't control the marketplace. The marketplace controls itself. So we'll see what happens, and we have indicators of what will happen. But what I don't understand, and what's interesting about reach and television, is why do people in this audience continue to plan and buy cable versus broadcast? You should be buying television. Television is the largest reach vehicle. Whether you buy broadcast, whether you buy cable, it doesn't matter, it's television.
Right, and I think that goes to the media planning group and the creative groups. As you're targeting the audiences, you know, we all have to do a better job of targeting and figuring out the demographics. We'll probably get into some of the
Demographics,
research.
Again, anything, just
Right.
you know, whatever you want to buy. So you can buy cross-platform, you can buy whatever, but it's about reach and it's about television.
But we're still having that debate, cable versus broadcast.
I'm
If
not.
I could
The
jump in,
consumers aren't.
I don't
Linda,
think
you're the one who
anyone's
oversees
really
both.
having a debate. What was funny when Abbey and I first got together about speaking on the panel today, I actually told her I didn't understand the question or the title of the talk today, which was, I think it was something like, is the death of the network overrated, or something like that. And I said I didn't really understand, because are you talking about what network? Broadcast, cable, or if you get content digital? I said I don't think that matters, and we're not really having that debate, nor should we talk about that, for one reason. And the one reason, as all of you know, it doesn't matter to the consumer at all.
That's the key.
So if it doesn't matter to the consumer, to Joanne's point about someone doesn't go home and say, oh, it's Tuesday night, I think I'll watch cable, to your original point about Walking Dead, Downton Abbey, I think it's really just about the consumer will find great content anywhere. And that's the responsibility of all of us as representative of our networks or platform providers that push this content out to make great content.
I don't want to get bogged down in a whole CPM discussion because but I do want to point out.
We could stay here all day on that.
I want to point out, that's right, although I think we are right before lunch, so we probably can't. But I do want to point out that while it may not matter to the consumer, it appears to matter to advertisers because they're priced differently.
Well, but it's also about, I still think forget the difference between the two. It's about great content. You have great content, you get viewership. You have viewership, you get dollars. It is going to affect things, but it affects things how it's split up. You're going to have all these great pieces of content, whether it's broadcast or cable, and probably cable has come up with a lot more. I don't think anyone would argue with that over the last few years. And it's about then taking it the next step. How does it provide value to everyone in this room? How does it connect them together? And that's the thing. How do you go deeper with that great content? And how do you take it to the next level so they have that association with it? And dollars will follow.
CPM differential. It really is just the most basic, simple fundamentals of supply and demand. So as time has evolved, and you look at sports, not to step on David and Joanne's territory, but sports. You're right now. I know you're going to talk about maybe some stuff, when you talk about the equalization of CPM, no matter what the platform, if you talk about kids programs, if you talk about a variety of different programs, all about supply and demand. So as great scripted content has grown up and exploded on what we want to call, kind of cable, whether it's Walking Dead or it's Suits on USA, those CPMs are virtually indistinguishable, and that's determined by the marketplace.
Well, sports, news, and kids for the last God knows how many years have the same CPM as whether it's broadcast or cable. The only genre was entertainment, and at the time, the cable business wasn't doing any original programming.
That's correct.
And so the cable now has done a tremendous job in building up across different media companies a tremendous amount of original content, and you're seeing the CPMs accordingly go up alongside that. So at some point, there is still a differential between the genre of entertainment, but as more and more original programming comes up, by the way, it's a risky investment at some points, but as it comes up, you'll see the differential get smaller there as well.
So we are going to talk about sports later, because that's obviously a huge theme in TV these days. We'll come back to that, but Linda, you brought up supply and demand. TV still the greatest share of advertising spend, of measured media spend, and despite this increased fragmentation, we see CPMs continue to rise. I think the Kantar numbers that came out yesterday show a significant increase in TV spend in 2012. And we talk about this, and the criticism of TV is, well, advertisers are paying more for less. But it's supply and demand driven, we know that. So for each one of you, I want to ask you specifically, where will your growth come from? What is the source of growth this year? What is the source of long-term growth for you? Because, the market can go up, 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 up forever, and that would be fabulous for all of you on this panel, but let's say it doesn't. Where does your growth come from?
I'll go
Jeff.
first.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Joanne and then Jeff.
Sorry.
Here we go.
Basically, when you're talking about growth, corporately, it comes from retrans, which everybody's familiar with. It will come from international sales. When you're talking about the network, it will come from ad sales, but ad sales will change as we get new measurement. There's talk about C3 versus C7. It'll change as marketers find ways to measure, and Nielsen and all the research companies out there find ways to accurately measure the media, and then they'll spend more because they'll be able to prove return on investment. And there's a lot of research out there that's working with set-top boxes. So as we go forward, as technology changes and as the research becomes more pinpointed, I believe that people will still continue to invest in television.
Jeff.
The growth is going to come, it still goes back to content. It goes back to investing in content. It goes to access to talent that is on that content. It goes to enhancing what the value is that we give an advertiser. So if you go deep with an advertiser, they're going to be willing to pay more when they're getting more, and if you're giving them more value.
And that more, when you say access to talent, that's
all
more.
Right, so for us, we have let's take Unilever. I'll pick a client out there. They came to us and they wanted to know, how do you connect with young men, and how do you do it in a relevant, authentic way? So what we'll do is we'll go to Workaholics on Comedy Central. We'll go to the creators of it. We'll go create a separate series called The Other Cubicle. We'll integrate Choco Taco. They want to be relevant, actually, Choco Taco on Cinco de Mayo to young men. We'll create an entire series about it. And then that will go viral. They'll get like a couple million views. It'll spread around the internet, and they'll get the association with that audience, and it's authentic. And that's value. And then we'll do that for a number of brands. I mean, and we're willing to do that, and we want to make them happy with it so they come back.
Linda, where will your growth come from? I know you guys have identified some specific consumer segments as well.
Yes, well, I think it's interesting, your question, you said, you know, as fragmentation and choice continues, that people are paying more for less. I got stuck on that because I don't think actually customers are paying more for less. With the increase or proliferation of choice, advertisers and agencies today, I think, have more opportunity to mitigate CPM inflation more than ever before. So growth, though, then has to come from creating great content and investing in opportunities to draw those consumers in, whether it's the Olympics or World Cup soccer, to investments like original scripted content or an acquisition like Modern Family on cable.
But what's new about that? I mean, that's what TV's been doing forever,
I could speak
right?
on behalf of my own network. It's not that new because there's, you know, years and years we've always been talking about content is king. But I think for a company like NBCU, where you have a content and media company that is also a technology company, it's the capability of harnessing or aggregating all those advertisers and being able to be nimble enough and offer advertisers opportunity across those audiences that they can get that continuity of reach and the consistency of their scheduling. So I can say I don't really sell commercial time. I sell Coke, I sell jeans, I sell sneakers. So I can tell them that the ROI is there, that I can move product off the shelf.
David, where does Turner's growth
Must-carry program to drive sub-rates, and that's going to be key for us.
So retransmission for Joanne's sub-rates for you.
SVOD rights, digital content, and our niche networks, which will invest, again, in content. You can kind of hear that theme, like True TV and Adult Swim, invest in those brands that have huge opportunity to grow double-digit revenue growth. So that would be niche networks, sub-rates, and whatever else I said.
Right, and I think the recurring answer here, including the sub-rates, is what are you providing?
Oh, digital.
You're providing good content. You're providing something that they want to see, that they want to go to, that they want their, like Jeff said, they want the association of their product with that programming or that content, whether it's online or digital or mobile. It comes back to the content.
Let me come back to the supply and demand thing very briefly, because you know I know that's sort of like that's the rote answer every time someone says, how can CPMs keep going up for television? Well, it's supply and demand. If you're willing to pay for it, you're willing to sell it for that price. But at a certain point, or I should say, at what point does the supply-demand equation perhaps get a little bit out of whack? You know, drive up prices so that it's not worth it to buy TV.
It gets out of whack when they stop buying.
That's right.
When there's no value associated
You have to have
with
value.
it.
So that will, what are we talking here? You know, how much more can it go up?
I think that's a question for, you know, our colleagues in the audience.
All right.
They can walk away if they don't believe there's value there, and that's what David said. I mean, that's kind of how it all works.
The price will self-regulate because you're going to have to walk this fine line, and you figure out and negotiate between partners what the intersection of is that price and value, and that's where it settles. And particularly as it pertains to sports, which is always the question, how much is it worth?
Totally.
But when you look at consumer demand and its impact, and whether it's from the cable operators or from the advertiser demand, it's really just supported by the consumer's insatiable thirst and interest for sports programming, live sports programming.
Let's talk a little bit about sports, because that, you know, obviously is fueling some of the largest ratings on television right now. You are all invested to various degrees in sports. Jeff and I have talked about this.
We're the only one who owns the sport.
The only one who owns the sport. Okay, what sport is this again?
Bellator. Owns the league, Bellator.
You might need to explain
MMA.
what that. Okay.
MMA league. You know, for Spike, we had the UFC. We built the UFC up with Dana. I don't want to piss him off. But
That is a man you don't want to piss off.
we built it up with him, but we built it up into a multi-billion-dollar business. And so instead of being a renter, we now want to be an owner. And so we started the league in January, and we started, we own the league. So instead of having a league office and then have to worry about the telecast side, we are both.
All right, well, let's talk about live sports and how important is a major live sports property to the business of TV today, from an ad standpoint, from a subscriber fee standpoint, et cetera. David?
I would say, first of all, you could argue the fact that maybe sports were undervalued for so many years. If we agree or disagree, but I tend to think that sports will be the last destination program for television, meaning that no one watches the Super Bowl on Monday morning. So it's appointment viewing, and with that in mind, that's going to help your brands. So from a brand standpoint, you want to make sure you have sports content so people go and go to destination to see your brand. From a subscription basis, you have must-carry programming, it drives rate. So if you want to keep the ecosystem alive, which is subscription and ad revenue, you need to have sports, or we believe we need to have sports content and some of our key networks and key brands to keep driving those brands moving forward. So you have high ratings to promote your other programming. You have subscription fees that help you on your sub-rate side. It works on multi-platform. It's the best thing that people talk about, the most things people talk about in the social networking area, which is why you see sports ratings rise. So for us, it's a key factor in our portfolio, but it's only one key factor. We have acquisitions and we have original content. So if you have a portfolio within your brands, it's very helpful.
Is TV addicted to sports? Linda, you're sitting in, so fourth quarter, pretty good quarter for NBC, lots of football, great ratings. First quarter, not so great. We
took about 4 to 6 weeks. Is TV addicted to sports? I would say yes, but it's all driven by consumer interest. Mm-hmm. So I would say yes. And is TV the best vehicle to provide that content to the consumer? Absolutely.
And so how does this change the negotiations then with the leagues and that sort of thing? I mean, Jeff, Joanne.
I was not at CBS at the time that they lost the NFL, but we did lose the NFL. I'm sure a lot of people in the room remember that. And it hurt the network. And I think that when you sit down and you have the NFL or you have the SEC, which we have all these long-term contracts, so we're pretty well set into 2024, 2022, the investments that are made in that day are going to, as David said, they're going to grow the network and help you promote and bring more viewers day after day, year after year. So
look at the lengths of these deals now.
Yeah, our deals are long term. We're 2024, 2022, 2023. David and I are in business together. It's working out really nicely.
But think about this, Joanne. The deal that we did, right, was at the time, people were skeptic of a few things. Yeah. One, the
David,
$11 billion.
Can you give a little background first on the deal that you two did?
The NCAA.
Can I do it? We were locked in a room in Charlotte for a week, and it was Easter Sunday, and I was the only one that went to church.
That's true. I did not go to church.
I'm not sure. David Levy hasn't gone to church in a while.
I will admit that.
With me.
But the interesting part about that deal was a few things. One is, how about 2 different cultures and 2 different media companies actually going out and putting a partnership together, an equal partnership, not a cable versus broadcast partnership, but an equal partnership. And then the fact that it was a 14-year deal, that was unheard of. People thought, oh my God, 14 years, yet now you're seeing sports deals, anywhere from 10 to 20 years.
Why so long?
Because you got to amortize the costs. And you want to lock down your costs and know what your cost factors are for a length. And your cable deals now are going over 10 years. So with your cable operators, as well as you're amortizing your costs, is the length of that deal. But so you had media companies working together, sales organizations working together. There was a lot of skepticism, but I will tell you, which is incredible, that every metric that we wrote down 2 years ago, this is our 3rd year now into it, we are out delivering our sales, marketing, talent. It's unheard of. So think about media companies working together. Now you're seeing Fox and ESPN working together. You're seeing long length deals now.
What were the keys to making this kind of a deal where, CBS, Turner, you come together, you bid for the NCAA tournament, What were the keys to making that work? And now, 3 years in, what would you change?
I think the key, and I'll let Joanne if she wants to talk about the change, but I think the key originally was from the top down, where the first conversation I had with Sean was, we got to go in as equal partners. And that was the most important part. We didn't want to have this cable versus broadcasting. And once we settled on that, it was really kind of easy enough to go down and start making sure that everybody realized that and have the deal get structured.
You know, it's so interesting because there was a lot of skepticism, especially from a sales perspective. But I think the really good thing that came out of it is that our clients and the marketers that are NCAA clients and supporters accepted that we were going to go into the marketplace together and accepted the way we were selling it, and there was no pushback. And I think that having the games on every network so you can see the full games was a new idea, and it was really, really embraced by the consumer. I don't think at this point there is anything that we would change.
How about this? You changed the way this, CBS did a fantastic job for all those years, making a change where all the games were aired on all the networks, and having a 92% approval rate in year one with the skepticism that nobody likes change was incredible.
Yeah.
And I think if you can add to that, I mean, you've touched upon football, you're talking about basketball, but think about the long-term commitment to the Olympics and this past summer's performance of the London Olympics. And talk about skepticism, David, when you talk about NBC's decision of how we were going to stream all events and how we were going to provide certain events in prime time. And it was the single most successful television event in Olympic history. So today, when there's DVR and all this choice and technology and consumers being so lured with a lot of other options, if you look at that and then you ask the question, what is the power of live sports? I think you can use all these examples that says, you know what, there are certain things that transcend all of the technology changes, all of the way the marketplace is evolving, and it really underscores the value and the importance of live sports.
So I want to move off live sports because while it's hugely important and a lot of money and a lot of viewership, you still have to program the other however many hours of your schedule. And viewership for those things is changing. Live sports may be sort of the anomaly here. Live events, big events. We've seen a rise in marathoning, binge viewing, different approaches to serializing, the rise of second screen, co-viewing, all of these things. Is this changing what you do and your pitch to advertisers?
Well, just going back for a second, on the Olympics, what's so great about it also is it is back to content, full circle. It's content and storytelling. It's not as much who wins. It's all about storytelling. So when you see that drama and you see that storyline, so you saw it at night when you watched it, you saw it during the day when you saw the event live, but it brings it back down and it comes back around even to what you're just asking, because it comes down to that storytelling and the content and how to weave people in. So if you have binge viewing is great because you're creating this really good content that people want to get a lot of. They want to get it in, they want to talk about it. They want to get out there and want to be social about it. They want to get out there and they want co-viewing. Co-viewing is so important. Think about almost 75%, and it's any percentage you want because there's so many studies, but 75% of people are watching television, watching the binge viewing, watching the originals with a second screen app. And so whether it's your own or whether it's Z-Box, where we're in business with.
See, I can't hold hands with Lucas like these two were.
We're going to do a sports deal after this so we can get at the same time.
Explain Z-Box briefly, what you guys are doing with
well,
Z-Box.
with co-viewing, I mean, it's about discovery, it's about information, it's about social, it's about participation. It's allowing the viewer to be part of it, to be in that conversation. And it's definitely something, we do a lot of research on, especially in the millennial and the younger audience, and they want to be part of it. They want to talk about it. And what we're trying to do is kind of hook it all together so we can also bring in the advertiser right into the equation and put them right there, right in the center
sort
of
it. Like a distribution platform or it's a cable MSO for co-viewing.
Well, it's really designed to enhance the live viewing experience. And with partners like Jeff, there's a lot of programmers that are contributing content. Z-Box is the single largest and growing second screen aggregator of content, right? So what it's just offering that enhanced experience to be able to capitalize on that human need to share and connect and to advocate. So if we can reach them while they're watching the content live, then we're able to offer that opportunity to advertisers.
Right.
So
Let me ask, are there real dollars in kind of the second screen stuff today? I mean, how real are we talking?
Small. I mean, listen, we've talked to Z-Box. You know, we have our sync app with Conan Sync app. We've been doing it for a while. Z-Box is an aggregator now, trying to have all the media companies go along and be the destination for all sync apps. It's small, but you have to keep in the test. Listen, we're all here today trying new. You can't ignore these things, right? We do. It's a small amount of money today, but who knows what the future will bring. We do know that second screen is happening. Let's look at your kids. Look at everybody that's multitasking while they're watching TV. We want to make sure that the advertiser has an opportunity to reach it at two different screens, and so we've seen good results.
Well, just think about it. Everyone in this room would love to tap into the social side on a regular basis. This is giving you access, and maybe this is the app, or maybe it's not the app. You know, we'll see. Time to move on.
Yeah,
but
sorry.
No.
I was going to say, you asked, you were saying, are we doing anything different because of all these? The one thing that we are doing, from our perspective, is we're now producing more of our own programming versus having it produced by other studios. So you can control your own content, so you can do these things, whether you want to stack, whether you want to provide the SVOD, what windowing you want. You're controlling your own destiny. It's very difficult when someone else is also controlling your destiny. So when we go into greenlighting pilots and things of that nature, we discuss who's going to produce it, what assets we have, what can we control, so we can provide back to the advertisers or to our distribution partners what the needs are.
Right. You can't ignore the rights negotiations that go on before the fact, after the fact, during the fact. And CBS has, obviously, as David says, we have our own TV studio, and we produce about half of our primetime schedule in the pilot season right now. We have 23 pilots, and about half of them are CBSP or in association with another studio. So controlling your own content, owning your own content is very important as everybody moves forward.
Let's talk about TV everywhere, this concept of accessing your content on a device, any device, as long as you authenticate. Is this something, it's a relatively new concept, 5-year-old concept, something like that. Are you surprised at how far it's come in 5 years, or how, little it's come, I guess?
I'm embarrassed, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Turner has been at the forefront of TV everywhere from the start. It was Jeff Bewkes, obviously, from Time Warner Cable, who pushed it, from Time Warner, who pushed it very, very deep and hard across all platforms immediately. The challenge is this. The challenge is it's an awful consumer experience.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Because you have some media companies some that are in on this panel, some that are not in on this panel in certain areas. And what's happened in the fact is that what's happened in the industry is that people are negotiating, the media companies are negotiating with the operators when their deals are up. And everybody has their deals up at different times. So, but the consumer doesn't care, right? This is a negotiation that's happening at a very different level. And so you have some media companies that are all in, you have some media that are half in, but from a consumer experience, it's awful. But let's go back to the reason why TV Everywhere was even acknowledged or even started, was the fact we wanted to keep the ecosystem, which is subscription and advertising, healthy. So we could produce great content, so we could have great ratings, so we could supply great content to everybody here in the room. But what's happened is it's been a very short, it has not been adapted very well. And so as we go through a cycle, and I think we're getting through it now, I think that most media companies are in that cycle of negotiating all their deals. I think you're going to see a lot more content on TV. The authentication process now is far easier than it used to be. So now the people are able to authenticate. In fact, this year in March Madness, we're not even putting a paid app out there, so it's all going to be authenticated for free hours in case you can't figure out how to authenticate. So the authentication process is better. The deals are now coming through all the media companies, and so the content will be richer and deeper. And when the content is richer and deeper, I think that ultimately you'll have cross-platform opportunities, you'll have larger reach, and the advertisers will will benefit from that.
So our audience wants to get it everywhere they can, all the time. I mean, you're right. It should be a lot better. And I feel like we're pushing more the technology itself. You know, we know that our viewers, millennial audience, wants to see it everywhere. When we produce, you know, they're talking about original content.
Yep.
We spend about $3.5 billion a year. We produce more original content than anyone. We have access to the content creators for the reason of, as it travels across, when we're producing it, our digital side, linear side are one in terms of development. They're thinking about, how do we develop it on all the screens? How do we develop it and put it into the social footprint? But TV everywhere, we'd want to push technology because it's just not there. Authentication, I mean, half the country can be authenticated. I mean, 48%, depends on the day and the quote. We need to keep pushing it because that's where they want to consume it.
The operators aren't even marketing it well.
No, they're not.
You know, and they're responsible. You know, the operators are the ones who should be pushing this product. The reason why they're not pushing is there's not enough content to push.
Well, and it's also to the point, there's a lot of key stakeholders that are involved in the evolution or maturation of TV everywhere. And you have everything from TV networks, obviously supplying the content to the consumer, but you have studios involved too. Most of the barriers right now have been technology barriers. Right. Again, it's hard and difficult for a consumer to authenticate. But when you have content that customers want, like March Madness or like the Olympics, where over 10 million people authenticated, they'll do it, they'll figure it out. It's got to get better for them.
Yeah, I don't know if it's technology, Linda. I really think it's supply of the content. There's not enough content.
Well, that's the stakeholder issue.
Yeah, right.
Is
that's
that we've got to work on it. It's rare that David and I agree on much, but we're getting there.
That was sort of a semi-agreement, I think.
But there's so many stakeholders in it, from the studio perspective, from the TV network. You have rights discussions, you have short tail, long tail, and that's what you say when you say it's 5 years old. That's why it's taken 5 years.
But I think it's going to get better. I think we're at an inflection point right now where most media companies are in their negotiation rights as we speak with operators, and I think it's going to be essential that TV everywhere is a part of it.
There's a lot of value there. I mean, everyone's trying to squeeze more out of it. If there's money there, there's value.
Well, I think you look at, I think Nielsen came out with the data yesterday, and there's more than 5 million zero TV households right now. And that's up from just over 2 million in 2007. Now, that's still a small number when you look at total TV households, but these are people accessing it through, through streaming video, et cetera. And at a certain point, there's potential for that to impact ad revenue unless you're there, right?
Right. Well, unless you're there, you have to be measured.
Yep. All right, let's talk about measurement a little bit. Thanks for that segue. I think, one of the things, Joanne, you mentioned when I said, where's the growth going to come from? You said measurement, a variety of things. C7 is something some of the networks are pushing for right now. The standard is live viewing plus 3 days of playback. I think some of the networks would like C7. 7 days of playback. Have you had any discussions with advertisers?
Well, we're constantly having discussions, but I think the most important thing is that you don't want inaccuracies in the bases from which you buy. So what the networks have to do, what Nielsen has to do, and the marketers have to push for better research, more accurate research, so we're sure that we're counting every eyeball, not just on television, but on second screen, cross-platform, which is really, really important. And there are a lot of tools that are out there. Everybody has their favorite tools du jour, which measure segmentation, which measure buyer graphics. There is not one size fits all, because not every client cares about day 4 to 7. And I think that as we have these conversations with clients, we need to be flexible, but we also need to bring research tools to bear that are going to help them identify the demographic that they're really targeting.
So you envision a future when every deal might be measured on something a little bit different or bought on something a little different?
It could be. I mean, obviously C3 is the currency that we have now, but we have deals on other metrics other than C3.
Like, for example?
It's proprietary, but we do have deals, and there are people in this audience who know that we have deals on other metrics. Sports is still live.
Does anyone else want to talk about those other metrics?
To Joanne's point, I mean, the discussion to go to C7 from C3 is good. It's surprising. It's an evolution of where we're going. But I think it's a little bit of a distraction from the real issue, which is measurement that captures the consumer everywhere, whenever, wherever.
Totally.
So, and it's really, what we have to talk about is measurement on a basis of what's important to everyone who's in this room. And it's not just a period of time of when they measured it, it's who are they, what do they do, what drives them to act, and those are the kind of conversations that we're all in.
Right.
So let me ask.
Second agreement with her. I
Second
totally
agreement.
agree. Cross-platform is more important than C7 right
All right.
now.
So this morning, I think it was Nigel Morris talked earlier about media and digital, the point of sale, the point of conversion coming closer together, using all of the modern tools at our disposal to really prove what media can do. What does that mean for TV? Are you seeing any early promising examples that we can point to in that convergence, proving TV's value?
Of cross-platform?
Of cross-platform, of proving that TV works based on the other digital information we can get today about how people are responding and reacting to it.
Well, I think that's what Nielsen is working on now. How are they going to figure out to measure every single eyeball that's watching every single platform? And there are a lot of tools that are out there. I think it's not here yet, as David and Linda said, but there are platforms. There's segmentation, there's Nielsen Catalina, there's TRA data, which is a little bit flaky sometimes, sometimes good, sometimes not. But there are tools out there that will measure it. I mean, they're trying to figure out how to measure mobile now.
Right. I mean, to press on what Linda said earlier, my job is not to sell TV programming. My job is to sell Cokes or Levi's or whatever.
Right.
So how do you
Well,
put it
that's
back
the
to
conversations that we have with customers where we're trying to partner with them, whether using, like Joanne says, a Catalina and using some shopper data, or whether you're working with Polk, talk about some auto data and try to isolate your campaign to prove that you delivered a hand raiser to an auto customer. Those are all things that we're doing right now, but quite frankly, I think the industry has to come together and really push and force really laser targeting progress on who this medium, that television, that can deliver tens of millions of viewers on a nightly basis of what we're doing. How are they delivering the ability to move by their storytelling and get a consumer to act and to buy product? And we can't do that today.
So we have actually a few fun questions that I have to get to.
Okay.
So
Why, this wasn't fun?
this was, you're right, this was fun. To start things off, if you could snap your fingers and make one thing go away in this industry, what would it be? Jeff, we'll start with you.
One thing go away. I'd like Nielsen OCR right now.
Okay.
How about that?
Nielsen OCR.
I think,
Snap one thing and let something go away. Could I have my competitors go away?
We'll all be going away in about 3 minutes.
Again, I'll go back to what I originally said before. I think that I would love to see people plan for television or plan for video. How's that? Across all platforms, and not plan for broadcast or cable, but plan for television.
So siloed planning. All right.
I don't want anything to go away. I want the ability to see into the future and to see where this is all going.
It's hard to compete with those guys. I would really like my daughter not to leave me to go to college and leave me at home with my husband and 3 cats.
Okay. How about favorite show not on your own network? Joanne.
Easy.
Homeland's Showtime. Dexter. Oh wait, that's Showtime.
Oh come on! There's got to be a lot of stuff. There's got to be one.
I love all my shows. Downton Abbey.
All right, Linda.
On the record for Joanne, The Good Wife, and I need to talk to you about the season off the record. Don't repeat it. Very upset if I don't see a good episode of Toddlers and Tiaras.
Get out of here.
Really?
Walking Dead. I'd go with that.
David.
I'm on the same channel. I'm on Breaking Bad. Great show.
Yeah, great show.
Great answers. All right, if you could switch jobs with one person in this industry, who would it be?
Oh, let me ask that one. I would say Les Moonves, purely for the money.
All right. Joanne, how about you?
I love my job, but I love my boss even more.
What?
He gives me money.
Yes, that's true.
All right, I'm not letting you off this easy on this question. Who would you switch jobs with? Anybody?
In the whole world?
In the industry.
In the industry? David, he gets to fly private.
Oh.
All right, Linda, is this true? He flies private?
Yes, and he gets very uncomfortable when he can't, and he has to get pat down by security.
All right,
He's not good
but
with
I know
that.
you don't want, you don't.
Wow.
I'm not going to make a comment here.
All right, so.
Whose job do I
Yes.
want in the industry?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Salam Coleman-Smith, president of Style Network. A little frustrated fashionista,
All right,
so
sounds
I
good.
want her job.
Jeff.
I would go. I go the David Levy route right there.
Jam.
Go
Oh
with the
my
money.
God.
I go with Philippe.
Sweetheart, let me just say one
I go
thing.
with Philippe.
Go with Les Moonves. He makes freaking more money than anybody.
All right.
Won't get into that debate.
All right,
but-
last.
It's not about the money, David. It's about the love of the game.
You know,
Yeah.
I think Klaasen's pretty
he
happy
said it's
too,
not about the money.
actually.
Started
Yeah.
my review and my raise every year from David. Lynn, it's not about the money.
It is true. It's about the environment.
See?
All right. One more last quick question. This is your chance to flatter a client. Okay. Favorite ad of the moment. Favorite ad campaign of the moment.
I love Volkswagen. The Volkswagen ads right now are absolutely terrific.
All right.
All of them, by the way.
Jeff.
I'm gonna pass on that one right now.
Oh, come on. I know you love all your children the best, but you know.
I love them all. I love them all. Taylor.
Okay.
For the room,
Jeff.
I love you all.
Jeff.
I
jeez,
have two
group hug,
favorites
Jeff.
that came
All right,
out
she's
of.
going to have two.
Kumbaya.
So
I
you-
have two that came out of Super Bowl, and I'm going to guess that the room may agree. The Jeep commercial in Super Bowl that was voiced by Oprah Winfrey was just unbelievably well done, patriotic, beautifully art directed. And I like any commercials with pets, including the Geico pig, who I love, but the Clydesdale ad in Super Bowl.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Linda.
Well, I had two also. I had the Geico piggy. I cannot separate from that. Love it. But the new AT&T spots with the little kids, I can't get enough of them. Little kid, can I do two things at once?
Right.
I
It's very
love
cute.
them. Outstanding.
Very
So those are my favorites right now.
Awesome.
But let's talk about it. We're all
anything-
watching
anything?
them.
Look,
That's what's
I like
important.
the AT&T
We're all
because
watching
of
them. That's what's
Comedy
That's
important.
true.
Central
That is
talent, but-
what's important. With that, I think we'll close the panel. Please help me thank our wonderful guests.
Thank you.